Welcome to another edition of Business Today, where we discuss in depth the business world and its dealings. As always, we've got an interesting show for you today. Today we are going to be focusing on a very interesting development. One of the developments I think is core in Sri Lankan economic plan. We are talking about the Colombo Port City Development Project. To talk about this, we have brought on the Executive Project Management Director to our studio. Before we talk to him, we'll learn a little bit about him.
Mr. Raja Edirisuriya is the Executive Project Management Director of the Colombo Port City Development Project. He has received 3 educational degrees in Civil, Structural and Business Administration, in which he has received Master's degree for Structural and Business Administration. Mr. Raja has over 40 years of work experience, both local and foreign. He served as a civil engineer, land developer, Chairman of State Engineering Corporation, Sri Lankan Ambassador to Brazil, Chairman of Mihin Lanka and Chairman of Urban Settlement Development Authority.
Mr. Raja Edirisuriya is in the studio with us. Mr. Edirisuriya, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Same here. It's great to have you.
So, like I said, you're here to talk about the Colombo Port City Development Project. It's been on the headlines. We heard so much about some of the details. What exactly is the Colombo Port City Development Project and what was the intended goal?
Well, Colombo Port City Project is a brainchild of Mahinda Rajapaksa. He is the creator, he is the inventor. This is an architect of his, basically. And by saying that, let me take you back to 2009. 2009, we were right at the end of the war, and our economy was at that time, it was really shattered. When you look at the economy, that time it was tea, rubber and coconut. We had an economy with very few tourists were coming into the country, less than 100,000. And we had, of course, garment industry. Garment industry was not doing too well that time also. So we have really a shattered economy. So when he inherited this after the war, he kind of looked at, how we can kind of expand our economy. If you go back to 1965, when Singapore was in such a lower level compared to Sri Lanka. Singapore wanted to be like Sri Lanka to develop their economy. But I think, now we got behind because of the 30-year war. So basically now, Mr. Rajapaksa was thinking now, rather than now, we had to do some catching up. So he decided, I think I had to look around and see how we can make up for all this, last years. So that's why I think, he's looking into much more in detail, and basically what he did, a few things. Now we knew Sri Lanka is strategically located in a place where all the busiest shipping lanes go on the south. We carry cargo about 70% of the energy, 35% of the bulk cargo, and also 50% of the containers pass by. Then again, at the same time, I don't know whether you recall BRICS countries. So 2 of the BRICS countries, that India and China, is right by us.
The shipping lanes.
Besides the shipping lanes, now we are talking about the 2 largest economies. These are developing economies with over 1 billion people population, and these both countries are right by Sri Lanka. So now he looked at this thing as, we have to create something better than, what our regular economy we have. So when you then look at other cities like New York, Tokyo, Shanghai, then Hong Kong, and what is the difference that we don't have that they have? Then he realized it, financial centers. So that's why he thought, maybe we should have a financial center to, develop our economy for the next 50 to 100 years. So he wasn't looking at a short-term thing. He was looking at more like the 50 to 100-year long-term economy to build in Sri Lanka. So that's what is got created, this concept basically to have a port city. Now I can go on a little bit more about the port city, how it got started.
That's what I was going to ask, how the origin was, and like you talked about a little bit about the timeline of the expectations.
Yes.
What is the timeline of the project itself?
Oh, this project itself is going to be a 25-year project, but now we already passed over 5 years. Now it's in 2041, this project will be completed. That's what our expectations are. But let me tell you, this port city itself, now looking for a land, because these financial centers, when you look for a land, is very important. I think you have an orderly development, because there are other financial centers. Dubai has one, Singapore has one. So, but we want to create something special. So that's why I think, this planned city was very important for us. That's why I think, we didn't have the land in Colombo area. So that's the reason that port city came along. And 2014, with the Xi Jinping, president of the China, and also the President Rajapaksa signed an agreement with a $1.4 billion investment to create this port city project.
That's a massive investment. Now, talking about the governments, what sort of agreement is in place between the two governments, Sri Lanka and China?
Yeah. Well, basically, it's a tri-party agreement that we have. Tri-party agreement is all about UDA, Sri Lankan government, and the Czech company. So this agreement basically have China will do the work for $1.4 billion investment. In lieu of doing that work, they're supposed to get the return, their financial commitment back. So we agreed to give them certain pieces of land, that is 116 hectares from that 279, the land mass, and lease it for 99 years. So they can do their investment and recover their investment. Basically.
So that investment period is from 2041 onwards?
No, it will be as soon as we started the completion. Once you complete the investment, then they have 99 years start. Obviously, they have to build their project.
Yeah.
And once the project is completed, now in fact we have a $450 billion investment here. That's the financial center, first phase of the investment.
Yeah.
So that investment, once it's completed 5 years, that's when it triggers the 99-year lease. So then obviously after 99 years, then they have to give the land back to Sri Lanka.
And talking about the project itself now, because you mentioned the foreign investment that is involved, what are the foreign partners like? Are there local partners involved in the project right now, apart from the agreement?
Yeah, I think certainly foreign partners are welcome. But in this case, I think the Brown Investment, that's a part of LLOC organization. And so this is combined with the Czech company and with the Brown company, $450 billion investment.
Yeah, and of course now talking about you, we saw the video about your extensive career in the States. What attracted you to this project? What made you think, all right, I'll come in and help out?
Well, I've been coming into Sri Lanka since tsunami happened. As a developer myself, I came and built 39 homes in a town called Edirisuriya in southern province. Then after that, I came as a State Engineering Corporation chairman, since I'm a civil engineer, State Engineering Corporation in 2006. Then after that, for a short time, I worked for Mihin Airline as a chairman. And then I was an ambassador, as you had seen it, I work as an ambassador. Yeah. So basically, my commitment to Sri Lanka, I am a very patriotic guy, wanting to help Sri Lanka in any matter. And I retired at the age of 47, so I had the time, and my kids were growing up, they were older, so I could commit my time to come and, help Sri Lanka in many ways. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. And what's your vision for the Colombo Port Cities project? Because we have the vision of the governments at hand. What do you envision?
Well, I want to create the port city as one of the best cities in the world. The reason I am saying this is an orderly development. You cannot go and find in Colombo anything that orderly being developed. If you look at I don't know whether we have any pictures out here at the moment to show, but it's really planned for orderly development. So my goal is that once a project is completed, and if you are a traveler, you will say, okay, I have a bucket of things that I want to do at the end of my career, or maybe my lifetime that I want to go and visit. I want to go and visit maybe Great Wall in China. Yeah. I want to go to maybe Brazil and go to the carnival. Like that, if someone says, okay, I want to go and visit the Colombo port city and visit the sunset in Marina, maybe that means I achieve my goal of, creating a beautiful city where people want to come and visit.
Some sort of attraction.
Attraction, yes.
And now, of course, this Port City project, I think everything is geared towards attracting people, and the point of attracting people is to generate businesses. What sort of business opportunities are out there for Sri Lankan entrepreneurs?
Well, Business City, financial center is not only financial center. If you look at the whole project, 269 hectares, we have a financial center, then we have a central park, then we have marina, then we have a island that's called International Island, and also we have the housing projects. So it's a variety of jobs. Now, if you look at the International Island has a convention center, it has an international hospital, it has an international school. So just imagine within those three type of people have occupation. If you look at hospital, international hospital, they are doctors. We are planning to have 120 doctors with 1,600 staff there. International school, teachers. So there are so many job opportunities come along with these projects. And there is another area that is a theme park with hotels. So there are water sports. So variety of employments that will bring with the professionals and non-professionals.
So employment opportunities apart from the businesses that will actually be in the port city and attract customers.
Absolutely, I think we are expecting almost once it's completed about 250,000 people to live in this port city. And also the employment is recently done a study by the PricewaterhouseCoopers. It was pretty much 210,000 jobs to be created. Direct jobs about 130,000 jobs, and indirect jobs about 78,000. So you can imagine the amount of jobs that can create with this type of a project. And these are high-end projects. High-end means highly paid projects basically for the employees.
And I think you talked about this a little bit. You mentioned that the project is going to be out in phases until 2041. So what is the next immediate phase? What can the public expect to actually go and visit in the near future?
Yeah, the near future will be, I think, we have some temporary projects that's been proposed just to get the attraction for the port city. That's a golf range kind of a thing, just to practice golf. Or maybe a small promenade, people go and do some little dining and so forth. There are a few things that we are doing it, but they are all temporary. But at the moment, the commitment is $450,000 investment. We are building a project that's a part of the financial center. So that's within the 4 to 5 years, you will be able to see the completion of the financial center part of it.
And what type of investment opportunity will be brought about? And of course, talking about the investment now, you mentioned about the 250,000 jobs that will be available. What type of economic transformation will happen in Sri Lanka with this?
Well, it's huge. If you look at now, today, where our Sri Lankan, the world ranking wise, we are considered as a lower middle income class.
Frontier market.
Yeah. So if you now, with this type of investment, people are making higher wages. So our per capita income for an individual in this kind of a situation, I think, they are going to make more money. So when you look at this thing, the transformation will be the higher standard of living. It will be provided for the Sri Lankans all together with the job opportunities to everything else. There will be a much more higher standard of and also the FDIs. I forgot about mentioning of the FDIs. Foreign direct investment, that's the whole idea about this project. Foreign development investments coming into the country. So that will create much more higher developed kind of a nation, Sri Lanka.
And talking about foreign direct investment, getting foreign investors attracted to country and actually making them interested, what type of marketing should be done to actually attract those sort of investors?
Yeah, right now I think marketing is is the difficult part because of the COVID-19 at the moment. But I think the marketing part, for instance, international school, we have hired some outside marketing teams to market our project, go outside and see who will be interested, and also for the hospital. Like that, I think especially the Chinese company, they are hiring people to basically market the whole project. So that way it will be helping us as well for the Sri Lankan lots, because we have 28 lots to be marketed.
Yeah.
And Chinese government also has 46 lots to be marketed. So it's a combination of all this we are combining, and also we probably have it later on go out to other countries, reach other embassies to market this project.
And talking about the Chinese government and the Chinese company, now of course you
Czech
mentioned
will be,
about the Czech company. Now of course you have mentioned about the 99-year lease agreement where they do own the land, and that is there. Apart from that, what responsibilities do we have to the Chinese, the Czech company and the Chinese government, or is there any?
Well, there is obviously, certainly they are building this project, but there are certain utilities are needed, like for instance water, sewer. So we supposed to bring these lines to the property where the boundaries, because they will be doing all the infrastructure inside, and we supposed to bring all these sewer lines, water lines available at the boundary of the site. So that is our basically commitment. And also when you do an environmental impact assessment, that identify there is an impact on the project on certain issues like the traffic. So we have an elevated freeway that will be coming from the Negombo Airport to Port City. So that will bring the passengers or whoever wants to come into Port City from the airport immediately within 30 minutes kind of a thing. So these kind of things are being pretty much become the Sri Lankan government expense.
Yeah, the infrastructure. I think
infrastructure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of the key complaints that a lot of people have is about the commute that they have, so that is being rectified. Now, talking about marketing things, we have to have something to market. Now, in a sense, you're also a foreign investor in terms of you having that outside exposure. What are the key things that you see in Sri Lankan market that can attract people in?
So you mean especially the Port City?
Yeah.
Port City is going to build as one of the high tech. Now, if you look at other areas of even Singapore, even in Dubai, they are always constantly the technology is changing. But our Port City, we are going to market it as a cutting edge technology. So the communication, when you look at the Port City Financial Center, communication infrastructure is the most important thing, because there will be businesses like if you look at the stock market, you have stocks, bonds, constantly. It's a 24-hour operation. One part of the world is sleeping, other part is doing the business. So this is like a 24/7 operation. So you need to have this cutting technology, cutting edge technology available. So the Sri Lanka is the most recent one is getting done compared to Dubai or Singapore or any other Hong Kong or anywhere else. So the marketing wise, I think we are in much more better position with this because of the cutting edge technologies that's going to be available.
Yeah, and now talking about the manpower now, because you mentioned about the 250,000 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are a lot of white collar workers in Sri Lanka who are experiencing tough time. They are seeking out foreign employment a lot of the times. There are people who are getting qualified and having no opportunities out there. What type of job opportunities will they have coming into the Port City or other developments because of Port City?
Yeah, when you look at the marketing degree, let's say someone who has a marketing degree. The Port City Financial Center looking for all kinds of people, even with the high computer knowledge, IT knowledge, and then they look at also the marketing knowledge. The investors like maybe a Port City has stocks, bonds, pension funds, administration. If you look at the administration, the hospital needs administrators, schools need administrators. Then if you look at the hotel industry, hospitality industry, you need to have people, those who work in that industry. So it's a lot of white collar jobs will be created by this project.
That is brilliant. And now talking about your experiences, you mentioned about your vision coming in. Now, what is a normal day like for you right now with the Colombo Port City Development Project line?
Well, I would say it's a very busy one. I think, certainly for the last 5 years, I think things could have been done differently. But now since I came in, I think, things are working a little bit harder. There are a lot of agreements needs to be in place. For instance, now SLT, Sri Lanka Telecom, their agreement, has not been completed. So we need to get those agreement in place. We need to have gas lines in there. So we need to have, work with, either LAF gas or whoever the gas other providers available to work with them to, get these agreements in place. Because ultimately, once the port city is being created, once the port city is functioning, this has to work.
Yeah.
It's just another city. And obviously, there will be a commission. The commission will be looking after for this administrative part of it. And there will be policies. People will be coming in and they are doing business.
Yeah.
So obviously, restaurants are there. So it needs to have gas. It needs to have electricity. So these things has to be put in place. So those are the things that I am working on at the moment. So I have a very kind of a busy situation, every single day meetings.
That is, of course, something interesting. I think you have to communicate with local partners, foreign investors, and of course foreign governments. Talking about the timeline now, of course, you mentioned about the 2041 expected finish date. What percentage do you say it's done right now? What's the stage we are in right now?
Well, it's a good question. It's a difficult one to answer.
Yeah. Because without the specifics of the 2041, it's...
The reason is, I think 2041, we will be building 61,000 square feet of space, livable space. So now when you look at that, it has to be built. So now we are looking at, with this financial center, it will be built 2.1 million square feet. Now it's 61 million, so you see the difference, I think. So it depends on how quickly these things will come. So I cannot really give a timeline. At this point, I will say reclamation process is done. So that's major part of the work, I think, too.
Yeah.
Now it's pretty much for the developers to come in and put their buildings in there.
Land is there.
Land is there now. So land was the most difficult part.
Thank you, Mr. Raja Edirisuriya, for that brilliant update. With that, we will wind up today's edition of Business Today. Thank you for joining us. Do join us next time. With that, we will say goodbye.